Hey guys, my name is Moon and welcome back for more Umineko When They Cry, episode 3. So last time it was kind of like tragic, I suppose, happiness and then tragedy afterwards, right? A lot of people are gone now, Natsuhi, Kraus, both of them gone. And then we had George there last time. He was so happy because yes, Shannon came back. She really came back, but couple minutes later, yeah, it only lasted a couple minutes. Both of them were also gone, and Beato was also being targeted, right, by Eva Beatrice. It's kind of sad for George there, but at least he had time with Shannon, right, until the end. So that was good. So, okay, we're here now with Jessica. It seems like she found the bodies of Kraus and Natsuhi, so let us continue. Jessica's woeful voice echoed throughout the rose garden. Perhaps it was the intuition of a person who lived on this island. After checking the part of the rose garden where Aunt Rosa and Maria had fallen and seeing nothing, Jessica went to look in the arbor next. Normally the arbor was probably the wonderful location to enjoy tea peacefully while appreciating the roses on a good sunny day. Maybe even Uncle Kraus and Aunt Natsuhi had days when they relaxed and enjoyed their tea together here. In that arbor lay their corpses. At least they aren't drenched in the rain like Aunt Rosa and Maria had been. But there's no way I could say that out loud to Jessica at the moment.
どうなんだ、南條先生。
考察ですな。ほら、ご覧なさい。首にくっきりと何か細いもので締めた跡が残っている。
だな。まさかこっちが主たる死因のわけはねえだろうよ。
Right there lay two stake-like weapons decorated with an occult design, which had been found driven into Uncle Kraus's thigh area and near Aunt Natsuhi's calf. When we found these sticking out of my parents' forehead and chest, we decided to preserve the crime scene and leave them for the police. But Jessica didn't care about such matters and immediately pulled the sticks out of her parents' forsaken bodies.
これで頭、胸、腹、膝、足の5つをえぐられた死体が出たわけね。くそくそくそ、犯人め、殺してやる、殺してやる。第8の番まではこれで終わったわ。続くは第9の番なの。魔女はよみがえり、誰も生き残れはしない。上等だぜ。魔女がよみがえるってことは犯人が堂々と姿を現してくれるってことなんだろう。何が誰も生き残れないだ。私が殺してやる。父さんと母さんを殺した犯人をこの手で絶対に殺してやる。
Jessica let her emotions flow out as she howled furiously. To avoid being crushed by grief, she could do nothing but resist with anger.
まだジョージが見つかってないわ。ジェシカちゃんたちはここにいたければいるといい。私は屋敷へ行くわ。
エヴァさん、バラバラに行動してはいけない。 みんなで一緒に行動しなくては危険です。
兄さんたちはもうどうしようもないわ。でもジョージはまだどこかで生きているかもしれない。ここで時間を潰してる暇はないのよ。
As Aunt Ava screamed this, Jessica glared at her. Ava had no more time to bother about the dead. She was more concerned for the safety of her only son, who had yet to be seen.
ジェシカちゃんはここでお父さんとお母さんのそばにいるといい。
I can already imagine it. Once we find George's body, Ava would scream again.
私はちょっと屋敷に行ってくるわ。バトラ君も南條先生もここにいてくれていい。
You're leaving Jessica behind here alone? After arbitrarily saying this, Aunt Ava rushed out of the arbor. No, I mean, Ava's going alone, and then Jessica, Nanjo and Butler is gonna be here. All alone, Ava's gonna go. I called out to stop her, but there was no way she would listen. However, being alone in this situation meant nothing short of death. If we silently watch her leave, it would be the same as letting her die. True. Because you don't know what they're fighting. Like, us, we know, but them, they don't even know what's been attacking them, right? Since Aunt Ava was unwilling to stop, we had no choice but to follow her. And while it may be cruel to say so, Uncle Kraus and Natsuhi were already dead. So there was nothing more we could do for them. In the end, we had no choice but to console Jessica and head for the mansion together. Fortunately, Jessica stood up. Perhaps she'd been able to break free from her grief. But what had surfaced in its place was an expression like a demon's.
私がこの手でぶっ殺して必ず仇を取ってやる。行こうぜバトラー。犯人を見つけたら邪魔をするなよ。私が絶対に殺す。
俺も親父たちの仇があるんだ。悪いが早いもん勝ちだぜ。
はあ、そうだな。ぶっ殺してやろうぜ。
At my words, Jessica finally seemed to feel like we sympathized with her emotions. She still had that dark expression, but I felt that Jessica had regained some of her sanity. We took off, chasing after Aunt Ava. Though through the rose garden, up the stone steps, running at full speed towards the mansion whose large intimidating shadow flashed in lightning. With this, the murders of the epitaph have reached the 8th twilight. And then in the 9th twilight, the witch shall revive. None shall be left alive. I will most likely lose my life. But at the very least, I want to burn the truth into my eyes. That's the only reason or the only thing motivating me to move right now. We were able to meet up with Aunt Ava, who was having trouble with the lock to the front door. It seemed that all the blood had risen to Aunt Ava's head. That was probably making her fingers clumsy. It looked like she couldn't even handle a simple task of inserting the key into the lock. Then there was a faint sound. The sound of the door unlocking. Just as though it had waited for all the survivors to unite before opening. It felt to me as though the malicious mansion was trying to swallow up all the remaining humans at once. Perhaps the stench that erupted outwards the instant the door opened couldn't be described as just a smell. It wasn't just the charred smell from grandfather. I think also it may have contained the regrets of the servants and Dad's group. All of the dead. What did it mean as it floated out, overwhelming us? Was it the cry of the dead telling us not to enter? However, Aunt Ava didn't even flinch at something like that. And we had to chase after her. We're forced to step into the mansion even after receiving that message.
ジョージジョージ聞こえたら返事をしなさいジョージ
Aunt Ava shouted at the top of her lungs. Considering the situation, it's probably far too optimistic to imagine that he's alive. When we started following Aunt Ava's example and calling out George's name in loud voices, Aunt Ava spotted something and stopped walking. She was standing in front of the door to the parlor.
これは南條先生ちょっと来てもらえるかしら
何事ですかな
I'd heard about the eerie magic circles written on doors like the one on the parlor from the adults. Eerie is the only word that described that thing, which was scribbled with a deep red paint reminiscent of blood so that it slowly dripped down. However, that had supposedly been there since this morning. Yeah, every door, right where there was a servant, there was a magic circle. And yeah, Shannon was here, so there was this. Wondering why Aunt Ava, who had supposedly seen it already, would think it odd now. Jessica and I stared at the door.
確かにこんな数字が書かれていた記憶はありません
ええなかったわ不気味な魔法文字みたいなのは書かれていたけど数字は書かれていなかった
From what the two of them said, only the magic circle had been there this morning. However, right now, there were 8 digits written near the upper parts of the magic circle. Ooh, what number? 0715-1129. I actually need to write it down. Okay, let me write that down. 0715-1129. Is this important? We will see. I didn't know what it meant, but I didn't even want to imagine what someone had been thinking when they wrote this. So how many numbers is this? We got 2, 4, 6, 8. Okay, 8 numbers. For what? It was drawn the same paint as the magic circle, but it had been clearly written very recently. The way it had dried and the condition of the colors was completely different from the magic circle part.
どうせ魔法的な意味があるんだろうぜ。深く考えたって意味なんかあるわけもないさ。
Jessica intentionally spat those words out in an attempt to push aside the eerie feel it gave off.
魔法陣というものかもしれませんなある種の数字遊びに魔除けが宿るという考え方ですどの列を足しても同じ数字になるみたいなものを皆さんも見聞きしたことがおありでしょう
あれは四角形の中に埋めた数字の話じゃなかったこれは横一列だもの何の意味があるのかさっぱりだわ多分ジェシカちゃんの言うのが正解よ私たちが深く考えたところで意味なんか何もないわ
Even though she said that, she probably suspected that it actually meant something. Aunt Ava was definitely writing that number down. on an old receipt or something with a short ballpoint pen. Unless he had some obvious pattern, it'd probably be tough to memorize a code made up of 8-digit number. Yeah.
これ、日にちとか、な。
Date 07? How can it be a date? 07 15 11 29. How is that a date?
日にち？何の話？
いや、偶然だろうけどな。俺の誕生日、7月15日なんだ。
Okay, well, it's probably a coincidence, but my birthday is July 15. Okay, so how about the 1129 then?
0715が7月15日を示すのかなって思ったら。
Okay, I mean, yeah, that would work.
1129も、ほら、11月29日って読んだら、ちょうど語呂がいいかなって思ってよ。
But why those numbers then?
なんでバトラーの誕生日がこんなとこに書いてあるんだよ。そして11月29日ってなんだよ。
Yeah, the date is October 20 or 5. I mean, October 5, 1986. Yes.
俺が知りてえぜ。
More than a month away.
まあ、たまたまの偶然だろうけどな。そう考えたら、なんだか不気味になっちまったぜ。
But the thing is, if this number doesn't have a meaning in this episode, we're probably gonna have to remember this. Yeah, it might mean something as a whole, right?
11月29日が誰かの誕生日だったりとかするのか？うちの家族は違うぜ。親父も桐江さんも縁者も違う。もちろん、俺のお袋もだ。
心当たりがありませんな。金蔵さんの誕生日でも源氏さんの誕生日でもないはずだ。
うちの家族も違うわよ。ローザやマリアちゃんでもないわ。
うちの家族だって違うぜ。カノン君も違うし、シャノンも違う。私、使用人の人の誕生日にはちゃんとプレゼント渡してるからみんな知ってるけど、11月29日に誕生日の人間なんて知らないぜ。
Once we started imagining that the 8 digits weren't meaningless, but actually 2 dates written together, it really started to look that way. However, its true meaning may be something completely different, or there may be no meaning at all. Anyway, since we don't have any real clues, it's probably pointless to stand around here worrying about it. The inside of the parlor is much more important. This morning... What? The inside of the parlor is much more important. Okay. This morning, behind each of the doors with a magic circle drawn on them had been the body of a victim. So if something new had been added to this door, does that mean something new has been added inside the parlor? When Aunt Ava tried to open it, she felt the resistance of the lock. She immediately took out the master key and put it in the keyhole. As soon as she opened the door, Aunt Ava let out a high-pitched scream and ran inside. I mean, yeah, because George is there. That alone was enough to tell us what had happened inside the room. Dr. Nanjo and I looked at each other and shook my head slightly as we entered the parlor.
ジョージ！ジョージ！しっかりして！ジョージ！南條先生、早く！
George Aniki lay there crumpled alongside Shannon Chan's corpse. His chest was stained bright red. And judging by his still opened eyes, I hate to say it to Aunt Ava, but I couldn't pick up any signs of life. Okay. Corpse discovered in the mansion parlor. The murder weapon is assumed to be a gun or a spear or spear-shaped object. In exchange for his soul, the witch granted an 8-digit number. When spoken, a small golden land will be opened. Okay. Where's Kraus? Kraus! If not for the epitaph, stakes wouldn't even be needed. What a pain. Why does epitaph even need to be followed in the first place? A game? True, though. Why? Yeah, why does it need to be followed? Like you already strangled him, right? And then you need to still put the stakes inside of them, or what? I guess it's just for the ritual, right? Maybe. After moving to take George's pulse, Dr. Nanjo shook his head wordlessly, reporting that George was dead. Brushing him aside, Aunt Ava again crouched beside George Aniki and started crying at the top of her lungs. I mean, that's her son. Yeah, that's her George. With Aniki's death, one thing is for certain. The murders hadn't ended on the 8th twilight. Yeah, it should have ended honestly, right? Like this should have been finished already. Because yeah, we're done with the Twilight. Is the revival now. The epitaph was being carried out in its complete form, including the 9th Twilight, and none shall be left alive. I was really starting to lose track of things. For some reason, Aunt Ava's half-crazed cries actually made me cool down. Crestfallen and exhausted, I flopped onto the sofa and plunked my feet on top of the table. Maybe all these murders numbed my heart. Instead of just being frightened, I felt completely confused. Dad and Kirei-san are dead, and the people have been killed off one by one, starting with the servants. And there's been a hell of a lot of them by now. I don't know when the first murder happened, but they might have been killed at a rate of about 1 person per hour by now. We believe that the boat will come for us around 9 AM tomorrow. There's still a full 12 hours until then. How many more sacrifices to the witch will there have to be for us to survive? With the 4 of us, if one goes each hour, we won't last any longer than 4 hours. We don't even know if we'll last until midnight tonight. Yesterday after lunch, we came into this parlor. Just as they started talking about serving some tea Aunt Rosa had bought, we kids decided to take a walk. Yeah, it's been a day. Like for us, it's been hours. Yeah, like how many hours of gameplay? Let's say 20 hours of gameplay already. But yeah, it's like, it's so fast for them. I mean, it's been, yeah, been a day. And a lot has happened already. They were happy the day before, and the next day most of them are just dead. Maria was jumping around, wasn't she? Didn't Shannon-chan bring us some cookies? She said Kumasawa-san had baked them or something. It would have been hilarious if she'd bake some mackerel into them. Ugh, imagine that. Mackerel cookies. Ugh. That's right, I'll never hear Kumasawa-bachan's mackerel jokes again, will I? Alright, if I only remember the stuff about Kumasawa-bachan, that wouldn't be fair to everyone else. Why did Kyrie and Dad even go outside? I mean, they had to get food. People were starving. It's not like going without food for a day would kill us. But yeah, I guess they underestimated the enemy. I mean, no one knew what or who the enemy is. They had guns with them. they were going. I mean, they actually got the food already, right? But then when they were going back, yeah, it's that place when they got caught. So why did Gluttony get a hold of them and make them go out for food? I'll bet that fearless dad of mine just started complaining about being hungry. Kirie-san, you were supposed to be the brakes for my reckless dad. Why didn't you stop him? And what about your daughter, Angie? She's still 6 years old. Yeah, very, very young. What was the reason why Angie was not here? Like, was she... I think she was sick or something, right? That's why she couldn't go on this trip. It would be nice though. Yeah, Maria could have had a playmate. Don't tell me you plan to leave her in my care. After all, it's doubtful now whether I'll be able to leave this island alive.
やめなさい。こんな時に争ってどうするんですか。ジェシカさん、やめなさい。
It's been kind of noisy for a while. By the time I looked up to see what it was, Jessica and Aunt Ava had suddenly started fighting each other. Okay. No, maybe I should say that Jessica was grabbing at Aunt Ava.
エヴァおばさんが父さんたちを殺したんだ。他に説明がつかない。何をバカなことを。
Okay, why is she saying this now?
あんたのお父さんたちなんか知るわけないでしょ。
ゲストハウスの1階にいたのは誰だよ。エヴァおばさんだ。
I mean, I guess you can argue that, right? Because yeah, she was with them. But she left, she went to the bathroom, so... Of course, Jessica didn't know that.
1階のロビーには父さんと母さんと、そしてエヴァおばさんがいた。生き残ったのは誰だ。エヴァおばさんだけだ。どうして。あんたが犯人だからに決まってるじゃないか。父さんと母さんを殺して外へ運び出して白々しく鍵を閉めて魔女の仕業なんかを装いやがったんだ。
じゃあジョージはどうしていなくなったのよ。1階には降りてきてないのよ。じゃあ2階でいなくなったっていうの。2階には誰がいたのよ。あなたたちがいたんじゃない。あなたは知ってたんでしょ。ジョージがこっそりゲストハウスを抜け出すのを。それを自分は何も知らないような顔を抜け抜けと。あんたがジョージを止めててくれれば、ジョージは
やめなさいというのに。ジェシカさんはずっといとこ部屋にいました。そしてエヴァさんもずっと1階のロビーにいました。そして2人とも何も悪くない。ただ家族を失って悲しいだけなんです。犯人なんか誰もいない。どこにもいない。ただただ魔女のせいなだけなんです。だからお二人で憎み合うのはやめなさい。
The witch's fault. I wonder if that's a good way to cool down the situation right now. I mean, like that's an easy argument if you don't want to blame anyone who's inside the room, right? Or you just say, like, maybe the person who's not here. For example, there's one person in the guest house, right? You can say like, oh, maybe let's ask that guy there what he was doing, just to put the tension down. Blame it on another thing or person that is not here in this room. Yeah, I finally found or understand why 3 people evaporated from the guest house when all the doors and windows were locked from the inside. This is what they were after, making us think the culprit was inside and sparkling this ugly mutual hatred. Has to be the culprit's, the witch's goal. But if that's the case, how did the culprit lock it from the outside? when Dad's group was attacked, their master key was definitely stolen. But yeah, didn't we get some red words that said that you cannot really put the master key or push it inside or outside or whatever, something like that. But the doors and windows to the guest house were built so that you couldn't lock them from the outside no matter how hard you tried. Yeah. So the master key should have had nothing to do with the guest house closed room. Jessica and Aunt Ava were turning their sadness at losing their blood relatives into anger at the person in front of them. Dr. Nanjo was trying to step between them. And I sat on the sofa staring up at the ceiling, thinking about things that didn't even matter anymore with a worn out expression. I just couldn't believe that this was the same parlor that had been so warm and pleasant midday yesterday. For just a short time before the typhoon hit. Who fired a shell? What? Wait, did Ava shoot Jessica? The sudden sound of a gunshot shook me out of my half-asleep trance. Smoke was rising out of the barrel of the gun Aunt Ava held. Jessica had fallen to the floor and was covering both her eyes. Aunt Ava and Dr. Nanjo were looking down at her in shock.
大丈夫ですかジェシカさん
Why did she shoot her?
ジェシカさん
私のせいじゃないわよ。
But why was her gun smoking then?
あんたがよせっていうのに突っかかってくるから。
So let's say she accidentally pulled the trigger, is that it?
おいおい、どうしたってんだ。何事なんだ。
So did Jessica grab at Aunt Ava, which turned into a scuffle? Did they start fighting over Aunt Ava's gun? Did some kind of impact cause the trigger to be pulled? I didn't know if the bullet had grazed her or if she'd been burned by the discharge. But either way, Jessica was covering both her eyes, screaming it hurts and rolling around on the floor.
大丈夫落ち着いて大した怪我ではありませんぞ気をしっかり
Hmm.
目が痛い見えない
So maybe, what do you call this? Aunt Ava like shot it upwards, but yeah, the gunpowder, I mean, that thing is hot. Probably went to her eyes. Dr. Nanjo let Jessica borrow his shoulder, saying that he would send to her in the servant room. The servant room in the mansion had a bed and a first aid kit and was able to function as an infirmary.
父さんと母さんの仇殺してやる殺してやる私じゃないわよ私じゃない
ジェシカさん傷に触りますからそれ以上騒がないでさあ使用人室に行きましょう
Jessica continued to curse Aunt Ava as her parents' murder. It seemed that Aunt Ava couldn't conceal her trembling at the fact that she had pulled the trigger even if it had been an accident.
私のせいじゃないわよ。あの子が掴みかかってきたからこんなことに。私は殺してなんかないわよ。それよりジョージは誰が殺したの？そうよ、ジョージは誰が殺したのよ。ジョージ、ジョージ。
私は悪くない。私は悪くない。
待てよエヴァおばさん、一人になるな。
I didn't know if it was because Aunt Ava couldn't bear her mistake, or if she'd given up control of her body to anger at the person who had killed her only son, or if it was both of those all mixed together. At any rate, she ran out into the corridor, yelling, fearful, and screaming. I was also worried about Jessica's condition, but right then, I couldn't leave Aunt Ava alone. Honestly, it's literally chaos now. No one is messing with them? Maybe someone... Maybe some of the witches, right? Yeah, maybe they actually pulled the trigger there with Ava not noticing. I mean, they can do that, right? Invisible? Maybe? I don't know. Dr. Nanjo took Jessica towards the servant room. I chased after Aunt Ava, dashing into the depths of the mansion. Okay, where are we now? After sitting Jessica on the servant room bed, Nanjo told her several times not to touch her eyes and examine the affected area. The barrel had probably been near her eyes, yeah. There was a possibility that the flames from the discharge had injured her corneas. But can you go blind by that? I mean, that thing is very hot though, yeah. There was no threat to her life, but it would probably be necessary to take her to a doctor as soon as possible. Nanjo applied emergency first aid, covering the affected area with gauze and wrapping it with a bandage. As a result, Jessica completely lost her field of vision.
いいですかな。傷が痛んだりうずいたりするでしょうが、絶対にかいたり揉んだりしてはなりませんぞ。明日になったらすぐに眼科の先生のところへ行きましょう。
あいつめ、本当は私を殺すつもりだったんだ。ほんのちょっと角度が悪かったら今頃殺されてた。絶対にあいつを警察へ突き出してやる。
エヴァさんはそんなことはしませんぞ。あれは事故です。
事故なもんか。あいつが父さんと母さんを殺したんだ。この島には19人目も魔女もいるわけがない。あいつが全ての犯人なんだ。ゲストハウスの1階にはあいつだけがいた。父さんと母さんを殺し、それを見てしまったジョージ兄さんも口封じに殺したに違いない。じいさまや使用人の人たちだってそうさ。きっとあいつは夕べの親族会議の途中でこっそり抜け出し、みんなを殺したに違いない。
もしそうならば、警察が調べればすぐにわかることです。警察はすごいですぞ。鑑識の手にかかればわからぬことなどありません。私たちは誰かを疑ったり恨んだりする必要などないのです。すべて警察が解決してくれます。
The police will resolve everything. Maybe.
だからジェシカさんは今は体を休め、目を楽にすることに専念するのです。
But honestly, if you're a cop, right, and then you arrive in this area, in this island, yeah, for example, the aftermath, right, when it's all over, and just discover everyone is just dead. How would you even know what happened, right? I think it's so hard to understand like what really happened in this place.
あまり眉間にシワを寄せては目にはもちろん美容にもよくありませんぞ。
When Jessica's abuse of Ava had reached a crescendo, she actually had started glaring instinctively, and the pressure on her eyes had hurt her. Jessica herself realized that the more she talked, the more the wound would hurt. Jessica, okay, she'd overcome, where we are. And regardless of whether she'd overcome her suspicions of Ava, she regained her composure for the time being.
あいつが殺したんだ。父さんや母さんを。シャノンやカノン君を。
But if you look at this, like in a human side, I mean, Ava has the most. Ava can be the most to gain, right? Because yeah, if she removes every single member of the family or every single person here, she would be left with the gold, right? Yeah. Gold all for herself. But yeah, is it okay to be ahead of a family with no one left? No, I'm just saying, I'm just saying. But the thing is, yeah, she killed them. Dad, Mom, Shannon, and Cannon. But yeah, why doesn't Jessica think like, oh, why is George dead now? Why is Hideyoshi, Uncle Hideyoshi dead? If Ava did this to everyone else, why is her family members, her husband and her son, gone? She'd heard that Cannon had been killed in the chapel. So Cannon was there. Jessica still hadn't seen his face after he had died. Jessica was now less fearful about the fact that she was blinded, and more frightened that the police would carry Cannon's body away while she still couldn't see, and that she would have to say her final farewell without being able to look at his face. Her anger at the culprit and her sadness at the death of a person she'd like, those mixed emotions started her crying. But right now, tears were actually painful for her. So she wasn't even permitted to leisurely remember his face in bygone days. Jessica could do nothing but sit on the bed and let her head droop, withstanding the pain.
さて、今度はエヴァさんの方が心配です。気に病まれていなければいいのですが。
Realizing that Jessica had calmed down for the time being and letting out a sigh, he stuck his head out into the hallway to look for any sign of the others coming back. Oh my god. Bye-bye, Dr. Nanjo. You're gonna die. Then their eyes met. Nanjo, unable to understand who this person was bewildered for an instant.
視力を失った人間って反魔法力も対魔法抵抗力もゼロになるんですって。つまり今のあんたはアイソレーテッドポーン。
Honestly, this face is so creepy. Yeah, Beato has this face as well, right? Well, when the eyes are opened wide and the grin is so large. Yeah, I guess all of the witches will have this. Maybe, because yeah, we got two witches here. Imagine if Burn Castle would be doing this, or Lambda Delta would have that smile like that and the eyes open wide. That would be really creepy.
意味がわかるかしら。
なんですと?
If we see more witches, are we gonna see more? I mean, which witches that we got? We got Ava Beatrice, Beato, we got Virgilia. Who else? Yeah, Baron Castle and Lambda Delta. So we got 5 right now. Nanjo had no way of understanding who the person in front of him was, much less what she had just said.
南條先生、 うしたんです？
Unable to see, Jessica had to rely on her voice, on the voice alone to make out the situation. But since she heard Nanjo say something in an uneasy tone, she tightened up thinking that something bad might have happened.
やめてくれ。殺さないでくれ。わしには病弱の孫がおる。ここでは死ねんのだ。頼む、見逃してくれ。
南條先生、南條先生。
Jessica couldn't do anything except call out from the bed. Judging by the tone of his voice, Nanjo was in the corridor confronting someone. And he was scared. His life must have been threatened just a second ago.
よせ、やめろ。
第9の晩に魔女は蘇り、誰も生き残れはしない。
The witch pointed the end of her gold staff at Nanjo. Even though he didn't know what she was planning to do, Nanjo assumed that she must be trying to take his life.
南條先生、南條先生、そこに誰がいるんだよ。返事をしろよ。
やめてくれ。
A sharp sound echoed. And just as sharply, the tip of the golden staff tapered and stretched, slicing into Nanju's forehead. Honestly, this is not the Twilights anymore. Yeah, it's just Eva Beatrice having fun with it. Jessica, who could only try to grasp what was happening with her ears, had no clue what was going on. But even so, she was able to realize with that sound, Nanjo had died. But let's check this first. Nanjo's son, one last push and he too would probably have been home free. But at the last possible moment, she did not permit him that. And she could tell that the person was now in the corridor right in front of the servant room. Furthermore, since she couldn't see, she wouldn't be able to run away and much less resist. Knowing that she was a mouse in a trap in a life or death situation, Jessica shuddered.
ああ、ジェシカ。かわいそうにね。目を怪我しちゃったのね。なら、あなたは逃げることもできないわね。今から南條の死体でたっぷり遊ぶわ。それに飽きたら、次はあなたを殺してたっぷり遊んであげる。
Man, I think Jessica couldn't. Can Jessica even notice that this is Ava? I mean, even the younger self? But yeah, the voice is different.
いいえ、せっかく目が見えないんだもの。殺してからだけじゃない。殺す前にもたっぷり遊んであげるわね。そこでしばらく震えながら待ってなさいね。南條の死体で私がどんな風に遊ぶのかをたっぷり想像しながら。
Jessica was struck with fear and let out a frail scream. She wanted to scream in a much louder voice, trying to get someone to help her. But she couldn't. When faced with a true fear, it clogs up a person's throat. Right then, Jessica couldn't barely even breathe.
助けて、助けて。
She searched around with her hands, trying to find some way to escape. But even though she should have known that this room was, well, just being unable to see made it like a closed room of darkness. True, I mean, it's so hard when you can't see anything. She ran into a shelf or something and things like a candy, jars and bottles fell down, hitting her on the head. As she was now, it would have been tough for her to even guard her head to block it. She was painfully aware of how powerless humans become just by losing their sense of sight. Of course, she had no time to be impressed by this fact. She crawled around at random trying to escape from that place, but she kept bumping into things that she didn't understand and getting hit by various falling objects. And it felt like the entire room was alive, bullying her and refusing to let her escape. Then a footstep could be heard from the presence in the hallway. And then a voice. She'd probably poked her head in the room since Jessica had been so loud.
賑やかね。レディーならおとなしくベッドに座って待っていなさい。令状にふさわしい素敵な真っ赤な死に装束を与えてやるんだから。あなたを見つけた人が失神してしまいそうになるくらいのね。
Jesus. Until just a second ago, she had sworn that she'd kill the culprit if she found him. However, she was now very powerless. She couldn't do anything except let out a scream, crawling around on the floor and bumping her head into the bed and the legs of the desks. In the corridor, as the witch thought of how to toy with Nanjo's life, a single gold butterfly secretly watched that scene from the corner of the hallway. A golden butterfly. Was this Beato now? Actual Beato? It was Beato, who had barely escaped her life once before. Is Beato gonna be the superhero this time? Not superhero, but the savior. Because yeah, she found the disciple, but that disciple turned out to be crazy, right? And now she's gonna be fighting that disciple. The gold butterfly softly returned to human form. It was faint and transparent like a lace curtain. By now, her power was so weak that even maintaining this form was difficult for her. Right next to her, a Ronove also appeared.
ジェシカも生き残れはしないでしょう。もとより誰も生き残れはしませんが。
あやつはカノンに恋心を寄せておった。
Yes.
わらわはそれをもてあそんだこともある。しかしそれは魔女として恥ずべきことであった。
愛とは異なる元素。恋心はそれ以上に純粋で尊いものでございます。なぜかお嬢様はとてもそれを嫌われますが。
お師匠様は言った。魔法とは人を幸せにするためにあるとな。わらわもかつてはそれを知っていたはずだった。そしてそれを忘れた時からわらわは魔女ではなくなっていたのだ。だからわらわは バトラの対戦相手の資格を失っていたのだ。
まさかお嬢様、ジェシカを助けるおつもりですか？危険です。
分かっておる。どうせ助けても黄金鏡の扉が開けば魔女の宴の慰み者よ。しかしそれでもあやつの殺し方に比べれば数段慈悲深い。魔女の宴は恐るべき方法にて命を奪うが二度は奪わぬ。生死をもてあそばぬ。
Okay.
しかしあやつは違う。何度でも殺す。
But why is this what do you call it? Is this sprite of Beatrice, right? Or Beatrice, I mean, or Beato? It's not like full. It's kind of like it's transparent, but you see Ronovi here fully shown.
面白半分で殺す。
That person is different. She kills over and over. She kills for fun.
そこにはわずかほどの慈悲もない。
But like the thing is, that's why the reason I'm saying that maybe Beato is just pretending, because yeah, you saw her in the first game, in the second game, right? I mean, even Butler said it in the first game. Why did you need to break the faces, right, of the first people in the first Twilight? And in the second game, why did you need, or what is the need to be putting sweets inside, or yeah, in the bellies of the people? Didn't you do that for fun as well?
わらわはせめてジェシカをそのような残酷な運命から
That's why it's so hard to
救い
believe
たい
this.
と思う。
Yeah, her acting like this, I mean, Beato.
確かにそれを行うことは良き魔女として称えられることでしょう。
Her having a change in heart and all, it's too hard to believe.
しかし新しきベアトリーチェ様はすでにお嬢様のことを敵視なされています。もう一度姿を見られることがあったなら今度は逃れる術はありませんよ。
ジョージをシャノンに会わせたとき、わらわはようやく魔女とはどういうものなのか、そして魔法とはどういうものなのかを理解したのだ。わらわは魔女だ。魔女であらねばならぬ。そしてバトラに対戦相手だと認められ、今度こそバトラに魔女だと認めさせなければならぬのだ。そのための道は長く険しいかもしれない。しかし今ここでその一歩を踏み出さねば、わらわは魔女を名乗れぬのだ。
お気持ちはわかりますが、どうやってお救いになるつもりです？今のお嬢様の身に使える魔法は多くありません。シャノンを蘇らせる時ですらジョージの力を借りたではありませんか。
だからこそジェシカだけは救えるかもしれぬのだ。今あやつはカノンに助けを求めている。その思いの力を借りれば、わらわの魔力にてもう一度冥府の扉を叩けるかもしれない。
Is she gonna bring back Canon this time now?
叩けはするでしょう。しかし魔力を使い切ります。新しきベアトリーチェ様にもし見つかったら本当に逃れる術はありませんよ。
Okay, now Canon.
私はすでにお嬢様の執事ではありません。いざという時お助けすることはできませんのでご了承を。
承知しておるわ。わらわはこれまで数えることもできぬほどの命をもてあそび奪ってきた。 ならばその罪は同じ数だけの命を救うことでしかあがなえぬのかもしれん。もとよりわらわに失うものなどないわ。名も魔力も引き継ぎ、今や魔女とも認められぬただの黄金の蝶よ。
バトラ様はどうなさるのですか？ゲームの途中です。彼はお嬢様がお戻りになるまで待つとおっしゃいました。ここで果てるようなことがあっても良いのですか？お嬢様にはバトラ様の向かいの席に戻る義務があるのですよ。
だからこそだ。わらわにしか救えぬ命があるならば、わらわはそれを救う。そして魔女と認められるぞ。わらわは魔女にならねばならぬのだ。これが試練であるならば、これまでの悪行に見合わぬ幼稚なものよ。さあ、姿を消せ、ロノ。
Vanish, run away.
かつて黄金の魔女と呼ばれた一匹の蝶の最後となるかもしれぬ魔法を見るがいい。
The final
かし
magic.
こまりました。黄金の魔女の名に恥じぬ魔法、拝見させてもらいます。願わくばそれが最後の魔法とならぬこと。
行け、我が友よ。もしインクが足りるなら、我が愚かなる生涯を記して同じ道を歩もうとする愚か者に手渡せ。さらばだ、ロノウ。
Bye. Okay, here we go. The chapel. I guess they're gonna do it fast this time. No dialogue or anything. Just get him and then bring him back.
どこにいるの？どこにいるの？
Okay, so let us take a break here. Let's see if Canon comes back next episode. But yeah, what is happening? Ava firing a gun earlier, injuring Jessica. But yeah, but was it actually Ava though? Or maybe just someone pulled the trigger, right? Oh, you just so sudden. Yeah, Butler was doing his like inner dialogue again, and then something, boom. I actually thought she got shot, right? But it was only, I guess, yeah, she got hit by, I guess, a discharge there. But yeah, Nanjo is gone as well. Only 3 people are left. Jessica, I was gonna say Beato. No, Jessica, Ava, and Butler here. Jessica is for sure gonna be next here. Yeah, even, I mean, they, like, look at this. Kanon is gonna come back, I suppose. But it's probably still gonna be the same as with what happened with Shannon there and George. He will come back and then it's just gonna be tragic. Most likely. Both of them are just gonna, gonna die like that. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. It looks like this is gonna be the last magic for Beato. As she's saying, right? Honestly, it's so hard to believe her, man. Like, what? She's doing all of this? Or what? She just suddenly had a change of heart because she saw someone who was much more crazier than her doing all that stuff. Very, very hard to believe. Like, I'm not fully invested with that. I mean, it looks nice. It looks different, right? It's pretty cool because of that. But it's really hard to believe. But anyways, we are gonna continue this and do more of Umineko When They Cry episode 3 in the next one. So I'll just see you then, guys. Bye bye.